Welcome back to Your Next Episode, the podcast delving into the myriad of midlife issues. And this week we're with Emma Campbell, known as Limitless M on Instagram, in her home in London. I'm Louise.
And I'm Amy. And yes, we are with Emma in her kitchen with her gorgeous dog Lola. And Emma is a writer, speaker, a mum of four, and a cancer patient. Is that okay for me to describe you like that?
Absolutely, it's true. I am a cancer patient.
It's factual, which is
good. Let's stick to the facts.
Yeah, exactly. So your memoir, All That Followed, A Story of Cancer, Kids and the Fear of Leaving Too Soon, was published in August 2018. Rave reviews and, highly regarded. It's an honest, funny, moving account of not just cancer, but of being a mother, secondary infertility, having triplets, friendships, love, and more. Yeah. And I read that like it's written down, and that's because it is. But funnily enough, a friend of mine said to me literally last night, "Oh, I've got her book.
Oh, wow.
I'll bring it over."
Oh, that's nice.
I'll bring it over tomorrow morning. I'm like, I'm not going to be able to consume that before I go and meet Emma.
I'll give you one. I've got a few spare ones lying around as well.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, it's lovely to meet you. Hello.
Thank you. Really, really lovely to meet you too.
We were saying before, weren't we, how with this weird online world that we all live in now, it's kind of like you feel like you know so much about somebody.
So true. And we know intimate details about each other's lives, don't we? Depending on how much we're willing to share. But I think with Dave and I in particular, we're very sort of, there's not much that we hold back. But I've found that a really positive thing. It's been very comforting. It's felt very supportive, very mutual. And yeah, I'm hooked.
Social media does get a bad rap, doesn't it? And I guess there are some, it's funny because we were talking about how people get these huge followings, but they've had no media training. No. And all of a sudden this becomes a beast that you can't control.
I often think, I don't know how I would cope. I've been lucky that I've never had any horrible messages or kind of trolling or whatever. Not that I would, but I don't know how. I don't think I'd be able to cope. I'm very thin-skinned, so it's lovely for me because I'm just follow lovely accounts. I've got lovely people that I chat to. All those lovely messages that come in, and just that engagement for me has just been nothing but positive.
I guess maybe the other thing, I mean, we're... How old are you, sorry?
48.
48. So do you think that if you've been doing this when you were 20?
I don't know, because if we'd been doing it at 20, we wouldn't know. Like my daughter has just the triplets are 10, and they've just started sort of embarking on the whole TikTok thing, which I'm trying to keep an eye on, but I don't really know what it is. But already I can see that she's pretty hooked, you know, and the little expressions are emerging and the stance and the hands on the hips. And I saw her in the mirror the other day, fiddling around with her lips, and it was like, oh my god, no, she said, oh mum, and it's like, no, Ella. So I don't know, but maybe at that generation they really don't know any other way of living and sort of communicating, whereas for me it's been a very, very recent discovery. So I feel like I've just been able to had enough of another life.
Of real life. So you're known on Instagram. We should, obviously all the show notes will be in there as Limitless M. So where did that name come from?
Just recently, I mean, the Limitless M thing, it's not that I think I'm so limitless. It's kind of an amazing, but it's more that I think I'm a real passionate believer in all of us having limitless potential. And it's almost like a daily reminder. It's an affirmation for me.
Yeah.
Especially through the dark times that I've encountered of having to hold on to, I have to believe I can come through and overcome. And it was initially came from, right, this is my reminder to me. I can do this. I can get through this. And actually it does feel right. And and then you can think, and that's been the interesting, I'm going off on a tangent now. That's been the interesting thing.
We love a tangent. The tangent.
First big tangent coming up. So I've talked recently over the last couple of weeks about coming off antidepressants. And part of that decision was partly Dave came off seemingly very easily. And I thought, oh, okay, well, he came off his. I thought, well, actually, I've been on them for 3-4 years. Maybe I'm feeling good. I'm in a good place. I think it's time. But also, and then as you might, I've crashed. I've had a few wobbles over the last few weeks. It has been harder than I thought it would be. But I found myself in my low moments over the last couple of weeks sort of, I'm just a fraud. I'm a fraud. I'm a fake. I'm not this positive person that I've kind of created because it's felt very genuine. The kind of, I can do this. I can overcome cancer. And then when you do hit a bit of a wall, for maybe it's a chemical shift and a recalibration, actually it's made me feel a little bit like, God, am I Limitless M? And then if I went back on, say I did a story of like, right, actually, I've decided I'm going to go back on, I'm not ready. Would I then, this is all my internal voice.
Yeah.
That horrible gremlin saying, well, actually, you're not really who you say you are. So it's a good name, and I feel very comfortable with it. And I believe in that, the power of that word. But at the moment,
it's like a positive affirmation. I like that, because that is subconsciously every time you log on social media or whatever, you're being told.
Well, it's like when they say
a positive thing.
Absolutely, and it's like when they say actually choose a positive affirmation or a positive word for a password on your bank account or on your computer home screen, because then you're typing that. And I have, like abundance, I'm abundant. And you're writing that 10 times a day as you're logging. It might sound mad.
No, it doesn't. I'm just imagining that my banking online would be, you're fucking useless.
Yeah, I know. You're like, oh my God.
You're spreading yourself too thin. You're spinning too many plates.
Sort yourself out. But do you know what I mean? It is, I think words are incredibly powerful.
It is. I was saying to you earlier that I teach hypnobirthing, and getting people to understand is how hypnobirthing works. And the major part of it is that your subconscious doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's imagined. So if you are drip feeding something to your subconscious every day, and it might be through listening to a hypnosis track or through a positive affirmation repetitively, then your subconscious accepts that as reality.
Completely.
And of course it has, and it's so beneficial.
And we talked about it just now, didn't we, about the terminology around cancer, and me choosing not to, even though on paper I'm in a certain category, me choosing not to bandy those words around, because it doesn't help. Some people might say, well, it's denial, but I choose to see it as, I don't feel like that person today. I don't feel like what that medical report might say. I'm not going to, whether it's an incurable or the whole, like I said to you, stage 4 secondary, doesn't mean I'm not on paper, but I don't want to live my life like that and have that identity, that label. That's
so
a very
important.
personal thing for me.
I noticed that you were on your blog and on your website there was something about a writing course. So was that your background before, Emma?
No, not well. Kind of. No, I've always written. Kind of. I spent my 20s waitressing and temping and acting incredibly unsuccessfly in Fringe theatre and stuff like that. And then
I hear that, honey,
oh my God.
Preaching to the choir.
Doing a 3-hour Shakespeare play to an audience of 3.
One of them's eating a hamburger, the other one's on the phone to the grandma. I know, exactly. I've been there.
And then my 30s, I had, my Jake when I was my son when I was 31, and then my 30s were kind of gobbled up with quite a lot of off-the-scenes drama, it feels like, the secondary infertility, kind of, unfortunate relationship ups and downs. So a lot of my energy felt very taken with life. And that's why I was so excited about talking to the both of you, because I think this time of my life, despite everything that I've gone through, is by far the happiest and the strongest.
It's your renaissance.
Oh my God.
It?
I mean, I struggled desperately in my 30s with it, and then you think, I don't know if it was low-level depression or whether it was just life circumstances, baby longing, like I said, drama at home, but an absolute permanent feeling of, so much I want to do. There's so much I think I can do, but I don't know where to begin, and very little confidence. And it's only, in recent years that I feel like I'm kind of, the cage door is opened.
Yeah, you're
almost.
coming up for air. Yeah, I do think about all the women out there, and men as well, and you sort of like all that talent and potential under the hood, and it just I guess.
But it's a funny thing, because it's like, I feel, going back to the name and the power of words, it's like I could sit. I've only met you today properly, but I could sing. You can do it. You can do it. We believe it so clearly for each other, don't we? There's nothing you can't do, and it's just about, and it can all sound very cliched as well, and people, if they're not in the right zone, can say, well, it's all very well for you to say you could, we've all got our challenges, but I just passionately believe and want to share that belief that fundamentally we can come through most things, and we can find a way of flourishing again, even if our life is altered in a way that we never would have chosen, that we can't turn back the time, but you can find a way of living with whatever it is, and living your best possible life, you know, big cliches.
No, you're a testament to that,
But
Emma.
I feel that so strongly. And I think that the negatives of that are that I'm a bit kind of, I've got such a feeling of urgency about living the best life I can. And that isn't, and when I say that to people, they think, oh yeah, because, you know, what if time runs out? Kind of, it's nothing to do with a prognosis or what the likelihood is of me being here in 5 or 10 years' time. It's just that,
You just want to get on with it.
yeah, right now I'm okay. Right now, today I'm okay.
Yeah.
So all those years, all those decades of kind of floundering, and it's like, no, now, you know, now's
But
my...
I do hear that a lot from people.
You know.
And so I'm 50.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, there's that. I mean, I know you've had illness and all sorts of other things going on as well. And Amy, you've still got quite young children. But there is that, like you said, about suddenly getting your head out of the, lifting your
above
head
the
above the
parapet or the cage or whatever it is.
Well,
you
it's
know.
all a process, isn't it? Because you go through that time where you're kind of like, you know, you smell a newborn baby's head when you're about my age, and your youngest one is 5, and you're thinking, oh, and then, but you have to sort of grieve though that is over, that part, when it's over, obviously, you know, like, and then there's that, it's a process of then transitioning out of that and saying, I'm ready to embrace that next bit of my life now, unashamedly. Yeah. With, you know...
I feel like I'll be a much better mum. I feel like I have days where I just, you know, I struggle a lot with mother guilt and feeling like I'm never quite getting it right. It's a big thing for me. But I feel like I'm almost breathing I'm exhaling as time goes by with the kids, because we're all here and we're all alive and we've got through so much, but also I just think I'll be a better mum as the physical demands lessen and the kind of absolute kind of, you know, eight hands and you know, sort of at me, and
soon they'll be at uni and saying,
I know, but then I'll be a sobbing wreck in the corner.
Yeah, and we'll be here for you, babes.
I know.
But it's that using that voice that you would use to your friend. So if your friend was going through that, you'd say, "Oh God, don't be like."
I know it's a hard one. The mum guilt is.
It really is. Isn't
I think
it?
it's very, very, very deep with me, and I haven't sort of said this on a podcast, but I think it's. I kind of know where it comes from. An unbelievable longing for a second baby. That consumed my life, my partner, their dad's life, to a detrimental degree. You know, had an enormous impact on. I don't use my mental state, our relationship, my parenting towards my eldest son, my lack of focus, my presence, and then to then find yourself having the miracle of 3 babies who are healthy, who are strong, who are here, and it's like, what a mind-blowing blessing.
Your prayers were literally answered.
Literally. I mean, I've always known I was quite a powerful manifester, but I think, honestly, the longing I put out there and the desire for years, you know, praying for another baby and then, you know, getting 3, it's just the most incredible thing. But the guilt I feel that I've found it very hard, and because of them with the illness, it's almost like it wasn't. They came along, they're here, and then everything fell apart, and it's not their fault.
No,
but they almost lost me. I have struggled, you know, I struggle with it all. It doesn't come easily in lots of ways, and so I'm waffling, I'm not being clear, but you know, just that feeling of, I know that's a fundamental layer of my guilt, and feeling like I wanted them so much, I got them, and then life fell apart, and I've spent the last decade trying to rebuild it with lots of pits, you know, potholes in the middle.
Have you had counselling, Emma?
Yeah.
So it sounds no, God. Because if you'd have said no, I'd have said like, we need to get you a couch and just get you people in here and just.
I know.
You seem so like. It's taking that thread of stuff and back to its origins, and you've just broken it down there so. And
eloquently. I know that's the fun, because Dave and I will often talk about it, because I do. I as a mum, it's like you know, I struggle very hard to be consistent. I struggle very hard with boundaries. I just want them to feel loved and safe. And then but then as a result, the behaviour, you know, I'll just be such a boundaryless. I know.
And also, you know, when you talk about what you said about that, getting through that, because I look back on when my children were babies and toddlers, and it being really physically hard work and finding, and I think, I probably didn't do enough of the things I should have done, and I feel guilty. But then now, 3 of our kids are in their sort of 20s and there's just one left at home. But the older ones now will phone me when they're upset, when they've got a problem, they will phone. And I think, and that's where I'm sort of coming into my own a bit more. And surely that's far more useful than just being great at doing jigsaw puzzles and messy play, which I wasn't very good at.
I think you're right. And I think that for me, the ongoing thing is, how present have I been over the last 10 years? Because, when they were born, there was a lot of drama, and then I got ill. And then it was the exhaustion years. I was in remission, but it was just the all-consuming triplet toddler preschool years. Lots of drama still sort of circulating around, and Jeremy Kyle moments, and kind of, not great in life state. So I don't feel like they've had me in the way that a child or one, might need. But I'm working on it. Let's just say.
No,
I'm very aware of it, and I just know that it's something that colours my view of myself as a parent. And I don't know.
We grew up in the 70s where you got a packet of crisps and left in the car at the
car at the pub.
I know that. I know. But that's the other thing as well, maybe, and the negatives of kind of the world we're in now. We see into each other's lives in such detail, and it's like, well, I'm not doing that, and I haven't been able to take them here, there, after school clubs, and anyway. It's a whole massive conversation.
And I think you're right. It's one of those days when you get up in the morning and you think, oh shit, like I know I'm in that headspace where I'm gonna beat myself up. And then other days you get up and you think, I'm the Oxo mum. I'm kind of Olivia I'm just
Walton,
doing the best that I can, and that's okay because everyone's alive. So we're good here.
I think just about in the last couple of weeks with my withdrawal off the drugs, there's been a lot of side eye sort of. But also, how's mum today? As I'm sobbing over the bolognese.
It's quite interesting. I was saying to Louise in the car that I've been in touch with lots of people in terms of coming and being a guest on our podcast. And one woman actually messaged me and said, I would love to come and chat to you, but if I chat to you about being in my 40s, 50s, then I'll get onto the subject of menopause. And it's been such a shit time. And I really don't feel like I want to talk about that. And I didn't obviously want to put you in a position where, but I believe that the medication you had sort of tipped you in.
I was put into so when you have chemotherapy, certainly as a breast cancer patient, I think the majority of the time your period stops. So 10 years ago when I was first diagnosed, I didn't have periods for about a year. And then so your ovaries are shut down, they just shut down as a result of the treatment. And then your oncologist will say, I was like, 38, 39, whatever. Your periods will probably start up again, and they did. And then 5 years ago when I had the first recurrence, straight back on chemo, and then I've continued to have a monthly injection with the world's biggest needle called Zoladex injection, which shuts down your ovaries. And so that's the one that overnight you go from non-menopausal to that's it. So I haven't had a period since for 5 years, and it did. I've been really lucky. Like hot flushes, I've never really. Occasional. Very, very minimal experience of hot flushes. Night sweats, no. For me, that kind of old lady can't get achy. No pain, but that stiffness and kind of like, But the main thing for me, which again probably was what led me finally to take this antidepressants, was the very sudden low mood. It felt almost overnight a chemical change. And they warned me, this might have, you look at the side effects, lead depression, whatever. It's serotonin, isn't it? But I remember sitting in our bedroom one day and almost kind of was on the phone to my sister, literally kind of, it was a really chemical, you just remember certain moments in life, when I had one the other week when I was in Sainsbury's and I sort of was like rolling against the aisle crying. But it was a real, oh my God, this is chemical. And I literally had the first injection, a few days earlier. I'd been on these new tablets, letrozole tablets, and it was just too much. So minimally, in a way, I feel like I've got out of it come through it quite easily. In terms of ongoing side effects, there aren't, but it was a bit of a shock.
Yeah.
That it happened over such a.
In thinking that you wouldn't be able to have HRT then?
No, because
Because-
for me, my
yeah.
hormone positive cancer, so HRT, would be very careful of anything with an estrogenic
Yeah.
element to it.
Absolutely,
Yeah. Anything. It's all about suppressing the estrogen.
Yes. Yeah.
So going back to your cancer treatment, I guess, I mean, the NHS can only do so much, and obviously it's a massive focus on the physical recovery. The mental side of it, your mental well-being.
By far the hardest aspect of all of it. And you know, everyone I know who's gone through cancer, it's something that isn't talked about enough. I think we're getting so much better now. But I remember my oncologist saying to me 10 years ago when I was coming to the end of treatment first time round, and I think, you know, or I'd just finished and I was sitting in his office. I don't cry all the time, you know, but I will, you know, it's probably wailing on that day as well. And he said, you know, you're going to feel lost at sea. I always remember that, you know, lost at sea when this all finishes, because you're just kind of, you're cast out with love and a kind of see you in 6 months, see you in a year, and best of luck, you're going to be fine. But essentially your life is you know, you are a different person. And for me, the anxiety that I suffered with after the first diagnosis and recovery was crippling, I would say. And that's then links back to the parenting, how that affected me as a mum and all of that, everything. And it was a terribly difficult time. I write a lot about that in my book, really. And I say this, it's that feeling of what a tragedy, because all of those 4 or 5 years when I was in remission first time round, and I thought, you know, I'd had a primary cancer and it was done, you know, so technically I was on my way to being cured. I might as well not have been, because the sort of daily torment that I suffered from of a kind of real obsessive behaviour, you know, checking, prodding, ritualistic, but not ever voicing any concerns. And do you know what? Again, I'm a third diagnosis. I feel like I've only just learned that lesson. So all of the stuff on Instagram that you see, it's your reminder, it's your weekly reminder to check your boobs. I don't even go there, because I think it's a miracle that I've got away as lightly as I have, you know. And so when the cancer came back the second time round, I'd been ignoring the symptoms for months. Mentally, I feel, like I said a few minutes ago, and I've finally I'm in a much, much healthier place. I think maybe it's partly because that thing of when the worst happens, and I know this is quite a common feeling, you can dread a diagnosis, you can live in a state of anxiety, but when you actually hear those words, actually, really sorry, there is evidence of a disease again, there is a progression, I know I'm not alone. And it's almost, in a bizarre way, there can be a feeling of relief of like, well,
You've catastrophized so much, you've anticipated it.
Yeah, I've buried myself, my children are motherless. Okay, right, this has happened. Okay, right, what are we going to do? You go into practical mode, and then all the support kicks back in, you know, your nurses and doctors and the breast care nurse and the kind of... So in a weird way, like when I was diagnosed a year ago, and it was it wasn't really a shock. I'd spent 14 months ignoring a lump in my other boob. I mean, you know, I'm not saying I'm not ashamed of myself, but how ridiculous that me of all people did that again. I spent 14, but it's because life was going really well.
Yeah.
Is that not quite common?
I'm surprised at someone who's, I can't speak for anyone else, but for someone who's been through it, I think, why, you know, like, Emma, come on, you know that you know, I was going to my 3 monthly face-to-face appointments and not mentioning the lump and not asking what my markers were, not wanting to know, secretly sort of having an instinct that maybe they were creeping up and not asking. But I've got to own, you know, that's something.
I think that, you know, even if there's one person listening to this now who's like, oh shit.
I feel like, and I've said this to people over the last year, Dave, or close friends, I finally learned. I honestly feel I can, and please haul me up on this if you suspect I'm not carrying it out in the future, but I feel like it's taken me a decade, but finally, I don't think I'll do that again. If I have anything, you know, if anything crops up, any niggling pain, any clues, I think I've finally made that shift, but it's taken a decade. Yeah. And that was pure fear. It was easier for me, more familiar for me to live in a state of permanent, catastrophic, never being present, never an injury, always thinking, what if, what's this, what's that, then actually pick up that phone or actually, you know, the torment of a no caller ID, the torment of a letter with a sort of envelope that you don't recognise, and your whole And that's how I lived, that kind of careering from...
That must have been exhausting. Yeah.
This, absolutely. And it's only now as I talk about it, it's like, oh yeah, I'm not scared of a no-caller ID. It's a PPI thing, or it's a, whatever, it's some random sales call. But for years and years and years, I would almost be physically sick with the surge of adrenaline, and then the room would kind of spin a bit. And I'd be in company and I'd sort of go, what is it? Oh, sorry, it's just the phone. I'd go ashen. Yeah. And you might think, oh God, get a grip. But it was just a very real way to live. And obviously part of my nature as well as a kind of bit of a warrior. I'm now currently feeling pretty strong mentally and pretty like I'm not feeling fearful right now about my health, because I just feel so fortunate and so instinctively feel, no, I think I'm okay right now. Yeah. And there's every reason right now to think that I'm going to be okay for a while.
It feels like only 10 years ago people would be sort of like, she's got cancer.
Oh, it's a totally different world to be living in now. I mean, if Instagram and the way that we all share and communicate, or the way I've chosen to share my story was an option or something I was part of 10 years ago, I think the way I would have coped would have been so much healthier. Yeah. Even though the support was there, the Macmillan leaflets through the door.
But we were saying this a few podcasts ago, weren't we, Louise? That there is an element of, you just said before, but you're told by the medical staff, right, good luck, off you go. There is an element
fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. But you kind of have to do your own searching for a community, for answers, for stuff.
But I didn't want to be part. That was my whole thing. I did not want to be part of any community, and it would be like, right, Emma, I was under 40. It was like there's a young women with cancer group. And I went along.
Oh, that sounds like a
I know,
party.
But it's like I didn't want to sit in a circle in a room with. I didn't want to.
And also, that's a really limited group of maybe a few women that whereas social media, Instagram, for example, there will be people going through the same thing as you that you just like have got nothing else in common with and you don't want to talk to. Exactly. But then on social media, there will be so many other people, to sort of pick and choose from in a community.
And you keep an eye on each other. There's like, I could list a dozen accounts, some with, it doesn't matter about the followers, the numbers, but we're all sort of just checking in on each other. And obviously certain accounts everyone knows, if there's been a change. But I've got there's a lovely lady in Scotland that I kind of, we've chatted a little bit and she shares her stuff and it's so intimate and it's so kind of, you just see each other's ebbs and flows and it is priceless, I think.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I know it must be annoying because not everyone's on Instagram. Isn't the centre of the bloody world, but for me, it's just,
isn't it?
I think it might be. Actually.
We've had a discussion in the car. We think it's really weird when people decide to come off social media completely. I sent you a message yesterday saying, "What's wrong with them? Who hurt them? Why are they doing that?"
For me, it's been positive.
I mean, the reality is everybody we are probably just sleepwalking, just constently, using this app. Yeah. But do you know what? Whatever you need at that particular time, isn't it? As we were saying, it's a great source of information,
support, information, community, hand-holding,
and also it's a different community of friends to your real life friends, because although you've got your fabulous real life friends. If they maybe haven't been touched by cancer, so they're not going to get it in the same way as these other people do.
And they're not as wonderful as they are. Yeah. They're not on that day in, day out journey with you.
Yeah.
Whether or not, I might not touch on cancer for 2 weeks on social media, but it's kind of there. And I think with that, we all compartmentalise as well. And sometimes I have felt a bit like, I hope I'm not shutting out my, all these amazing relationships I've got now online, amazing, like genuine friendships, even though you might have only met that person once or had a brief hug. But there's a real depth there and an openness. And so sometimes, when you're with a friend that you might have known for 20 or 30 years, you've almost got to bring them up. You've got to bring them up to speed with you are.
I was just going to ask you about communication, because we were talking about that. I think that some of our listeners would really be interested to hear your take on sort of communicating about lots of things, but cancer and diagnosis with your children, and specifically your eldest. Is he 16?
So he's 16. So Jake was nearly 7 when I was diagnosed, and it was, so again, very different conversation each time.
Yeah.
Babies were 6 months old, so irrelevant.
Yeah.
So Jake, it was a very specific, planned kind of, what do I do? There was a book, I remember writing a chapter about this in the book, and there's a book called Mummy's Lump, or Mummy's Got a Lump. And probably now there's so many more ways. But 10 years ago, it was like, right, Mum, this is the book that everyone... And I got the book out and on the kitchen counter, and he didn't even look at it. He was just, it was an incredible age. I think age 6, 7, he was just still kind of, oh, okay, Mummy. I said, Mummy's got a lump. Mummy's got a lump. You've probably noticed all these people coming in and out of the flat. There's been so many people around, and Mummy's been a bit distracted. I've got a nasty lump. But the doctors are going to give me some really strong medicine that's going to make it go away. But I'm going to look a little bit silly for a while because my hair's going to fall out. And that is what I said. And he just, okay, Mum, what's for dinner? What's for dinner?
Yeah.
Were you still in your relationship at that point?
We'd separated like literally a couple of weeks before.
Okay.
But then that fallout lasted for a lot longer. But yeah, officially I was kind of just on my own, which is, if I'm honest, which is why I finally went to the doctor, because while that was all breaking down, I knew that there were changes in I was not in a mental state to cope with everything. That was, finally the day came when he left. And then I think I sort of almost rang the doctor that it was like, right, I can deal with this now. And then second time round with Jake, and I knew I wasn't going to lose my hair. I lost some of it, it thinned, but it wasn't. And the babies, they were 5. So they knew, but it was like Mummy's having treatment. It's always been that kind of Mummy's having treatment. And with Jake, he was 12. He just started secondary school. It was a hard age,
Did he sort of remember at the age of 12 the conversation around the kitchen table with
I don't think he does remember that. No, not at all. I don't think he remembers that. And I think it's all he's ever known, really, because we had an argument once, I think about a year or 2 ago. And maybe last year when I was going through, everything again. And I think I might have said, I think occasionally as a mum, you pull out the big guns when you're having a really bad day.
Oh, for sure.
And you're like, I've got cancer, Jake. It's like,
yeah. Fair enough, actually, Emma, yeah.
And he was like, honestly, and I think I was driving him somewhere and he was like sitting and he went, well, sorry, Mum, but, it's all I've ever known. Like, and it's like, kind of, yeah, it's been something in his... So in a way...
But again, how wonderful that you can have that with each other where,
But the plus side of that is that it is his normal as well. And so I don't feel... I'll never forget the devastating day, a year ago when I was told, I got the phone call here and they were like, yeah, we think it's in your lung and in your other breast. And Dave was at work, he was on his way home, I called my dad and his partner, they live around the corner, and they came straight round. So it was the middle of the afternoon, my lovely dad was crying.
Oh, Emma. Yeah.
Oh.
Let it out.
Dave was on his way home. He walked in sort of 10 minutes later. And I was kind of not really in shock because I knew, but it was... And then Jake walked in unexpectedly early from school, like an hour early. And he just got such a shock. And I said, it's all right, darling, but, not well again. And he just went white,
Oh.
Sorry.
Oh,
no, don't apologise.
Because it's like he's not, he's 16 now, he was 15. You're not communicative, you're not,
you're monosyllabic.
He's monosyllabic.
Yeah.
He's quite insular and, withdrawn in that way. And I can tell the lovely story that I did share. It was an incredible moment that I took. So I left Dad and Ro and Dave here, and I said, right, Jake, come on, we're going to go for a walk. And I never do, I never have time. He doesn't want to do things.
He doesn't want to do it, probably.
Do anything.
Well,
and we took Lola walked across the common to the cafe, which is 5 minutes away. And he had his head bowed, and I was kind of veering between kind of a little bit of tears, and then it's going to be fine, Jake. I'm in such good hands.
Trying to be strong for him.
But, and then my voice would crack, and he was like, oh, Mum. That was the kind of as much of it. And we got hot chocolate, and then 5 minutes later, should we walk back now? Okay, let's walk back. Walk back along to the path, and he said, we got to the path, he went, Mum, you've just got to live like it's not there.
Wow.
And it was just like, I kind of almost felt winded. It was like the universe. It was like God,
a bolt of wisdom
it
from
was
us.
Like the most profound. It was like the gift, as the sentence I needed to hear that I try to. That is kind of my subtitle, in a way. If there was a strap line on, I want to, and that shaped the year. So thank you, my darling Jake. You'll never listen to this because he'd be mortified. But that he doesn't know what a gift that sentence was to me. No. You just got to live like it's not there. I mean, it's like, thank you. The wisdom of a 15-year-old.
Yeah.
That was an incredible.
But then the rest of the time, I suppose you're just
living with it.
You just live with it. You're not talking about it constantly.
No,
of course not.
But as far as home life and normality,
and when it comes to a 15-year-old, so my youngest is almost 15, and doesn't, as much as I try and think, must engage him in some meaningful conversation. He doesn't want it. Or he'll come and chat at a time when I'm not expecting it, but I'll say, let's sit down and have a cup of tea together, and
it's
and
mortifying. They don't want this.
Oh God, sod it, no, go on, off you go, and do your thing, and I'll
neither
go
of us
back
want to do this.
But
again, I'm such a nightmare. So I remember a couple of nights I have been really, my energy levels haven't been great in the last few weeks, and have been very mood wise all over the place, and evenings are very, very difficult in the house with the bedtime and everything. And there was a few nights ago, because I just communicate with him through his locked bedroom door, and it's like, Jake, and what? And I'm like, and it would be so nice to just see him face to face. But I had a tantrum a few nights ago, and I was like, just see you in a few years, Jake. I'll just talk to you in a few years. We'll try again then. And he was like, what, Mum? What?
Yeah.
But it's like my baby. So last night we went to a parents' review at the school, and then I said, come on, Jake, let's go for some food. And he was like, what, not takeaway? Because obviously in his ideal would be to pick up the takeaway and go home, and then he could
in his bedroom.
We're going to sit down.
But just the two of you went, didn't you?
We had such a nice 50 minutes in the pizza place, and honestly, it was such a
And actually, maybe just certainly with teenagers, snatching those moments and not trying to turn it into a big epic, because that's what I'm guilty of. Like we're going to sit down and we're going to talk about how you're feeling, and just have moments of, and that's fine.
I know.
But it comes down to, again, being a mum and feeling like, I should be sitting down having
I do this thing where,
together.
like, on the rare occasions when his bedroom door isn't locked, I might sort of notice a little gap. I think, it's open. I'll sort of walk in, and I'll just stand in. I'll just go, hi, Jake. Hi. Oh, how are you? Yeah, no, I'm fine. And I'll just sort of stand in the middle of his bedroom, and it'll be so painful, and I'll back away really.
Yes, I know. I'm the same.
Like, okay, see you. But what's been lovely as well, going off on a tangent, is that I've more and more, there's empathy, there's a sensitivity that's starting to kick in, because there's an age where they just, there's no kind of, there's a naturally selfish thing that children go through. But recently, a few times recently, he's been really protective of me when he doesn't know I'm, the little ones would be quite rude. There's quite a lot of verbal kind of, abuse that goes on. And he'll say, I don't want to hear you talk to Mum like that, Theo. And it's like,
that's lovely.
Oh God, okay, I'm not that off track.
You're not off track.
Anyway,
sure,
parenting chat.
I wanted to just go back to the social media thing. And so for anyone listening who maybe doesn't know where to look, online, on Instagram, and looking for a community and for support, who might be a cancer patient, apart from obviously your own Instagram feed, who else would be great for them to follow? Who do you follow that you would recommend?
I would always,
and I'm going to make notes now because I'll add it to the show notes.
And I might remember more after. I'll probably kick myself thinking,
you can email me if you think about
exactly. But I think for me, it would always be like, whether it's cancer, lean towards the accounts that make you feel good.
Yes.
So, and I'm very aware of that with certainly on the cancer front. So you've got amazing Debs, you've got Bal Babe, who kind of is the absolute ultimate example of living your best life.
Yeah.
With a prognosis that on paper might not be ideal. So Deb's, Lauren Girl versus Cancer, Laura, that mum with cancer who's got a very honest, very real, telling it like it is approach.
Right.
two fantastic girls, Nikki and Laura, who recently founded Secondary Sisters. So that's a specific account for, you know, those with a secondary breast cancer. Well, maybe it isn't just breast cancer, but yeah, you know, secondary cancer. No, you know, they're in their early 30s. They can't, unfortunately, have children as a result of their treatment. And that's a whole other, you know, that's a whole conversation.
It's a whole other podcast, isn't it?
Yeah, you know. So they're fantastic, and their accounts
and these are all on Instagram.
All on Instagram.
And what about online support?
I'm not a great one because I'm not you know, I've always chosen not to Google.
Right.
I think Cancer Research UK is like
So you do stuff with Cancer Research UK, don't you?
And I think their website, I would always say, you know, don't get lost online with internet and random middle of the night scrolling and kind of asking those horrible questions. And I'm not a great one for forums. No. But CRUK, I think, because you just know that the words you're reading are
it's evidence-based,
factual, and written by experts. Yeah. But also in a very, I was talking about this the other day, in a very neutral kind of way. So, you know,
are they careful about their language? How they
isn't that again that inflammatory, dramatic kind of? Yeah, it's there's a gentleness about. That's my way of looking at it.
Tone is really important with this. Isn't it?
Tone, I feel. I'm not. I can step onto there, or you know, find myself on their website and breathe at the same time. I'm like, oh God, what am I going to read here?
The other thing I wanted to ask you is, what has 2020 got in store for you and Dave and your family? Have you got any projects or plans that you can share with us?
I think we both feel really optimistic about this year, and in a way, and it's the new decade, and it's kind of the anniversary. Yeah, you know, the year began last year with bad things, and it's beginning this year in a good and a much better place. So I feel staying healthy, you know, that is goes without saying, the ultimate. I just think, you know, I don't know what's going to happen, but God, just let me have this year with no dramas, you know, a drama-free year. I feel
you deserve it, Emma.
I deserve a bloody drama-free year. I'm doing the London Marathon.
Oh wow!
And where can we? Are you being? Can we?
Yes,
sponsor you,
I haven't sort of put any of that out there yet. I'm actually running for an amazing charity called Homestart, and I'm running Homestart Wandsworth, who helped me incredibly when I was pre-illness, you know, when I was a single mum of the triplets and Jake, you know, in dire need and very, very scared and overwhelmed.
Send people in to help with.
So it's an amazing organisation where they run by, you know, volunteers will be assigned. A volunteer will be assigned to a family who are going through a difficult time, and that volunteer will give a couple of hours a week, go in and either sit and have a chat, maybe feed like in my case, it was like feed a baby, you know,
put a wash on,
or kind of any of those. Would you help me do some practical things, you know? Yeah. And they're just there. It was amazing. So I'm very, very, and the amazing lady, Sue, who was the head of the manager of Homestart Wandsworth, she passed away from cancer a couple of years ago. So and she was an incredible support to me. So I'm kind of doing it as a thank you to Sue as well. Yeah. So lots of marathon training, which seems a bit mad after everything I've been through, but in a very gentle way. Dave and I are hoping to do an event together to kind of open up the conversation of, you know, maybe of overcoming, getting through your rock bottom, overcoming the really dark times and the impact.
That would be an amazing.
The impact. We're actually also working on a book that we hope will become a real thing of, you know, what issues like cancer or addiction, the impact it has on the partner. So kind of a partner's perspective of, you know, when you go through those really, really difficult times. So we've got lots of ideas together.
Fabulous.
And then for me, I just, you know, want to keep on writing, speaking, raising awareness, and living the bloody best life I can, really.
Yeah. Amen to that.
Oh, it's been lovely to sit and chat to you.
Great
Thank you so much, Emma. And all the links for Emma and Dave and other, all the online sources of information, support and stuff that we've talked about will be in the show notes with the episode. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Made by darkhorsedigital.co.uk. Shooting, live streaming and podcast production.
Hello, this is Rich Wilson, host of the podcast Insane in the Membrane, where we talk to funny and interesting people about men's mental health. People like James Acaster.
Because we won't talk about emotions because we think that's bad. We won't talk about feelings, think that's bad. So they've had to rebrand it and go, it's mental health. You go, yeah,
mental.
Our brains are so, yeah, I'm pretty clever. Okay, I'll get into my mental. Yeah, I like puzzles.
And Rob Beckett.
I've never even done a school play. I did some open mic gigs, did the Edinburgh Fringe, somehow got on the telly, and I'm on the other side of the world in the jungle doing nights. Following Ant and Dec.
And David Baddiel.
Mum comes up to me and says, I'm starting this charity and it's for men and mental health in men, and would you like to be the patron of it? And my first thought was, oh right, so I come to this place every day. If I say no, she's going to be looking at me every day like, you cunt, you uncaring, pretending to be interested in mental health cunt.
Search Insane in the Membrane from wherever you get your podcasts. Brand new episode